And this is a follow-up from the last video of the Bilt TB200 625EX 150cc Briggs & Stratton engine. Going to see if we can fix this today. Doesn't seem to be getting gas, as I showed in the last video. Did get it to run, and then it eventually cut off and would just not start back up. It'll run for a little bit. Let's see if it'll do anything now. Seems like if it sits for a while, it'll start and then cut right off. Let's try it one more time here. It's still not doing anything. It backfired a little bit. That is as much as it'll do. Actually changed the spark plug in here, didn't make any difference. So we think it's a fuel related problem. I'm going to first start by taking off this recoil cover and get to this carburetor on here. And first going to blow some of this trash off here before I take this cover off. And 5/16" bolts to take off this cover. And with the last bolt out, this cover should lift completely off. Engine's very clean now since I blew off more of this trash. I'm just checking to see if anything's disconnected here. Springs are on, throttle's connected. Making sure all the linkage is in place before we do anything else. Now we'll take the air filter off. We're going to pinch this gas line that's down there and begin working on this carburetor. And there are 4 bolts to take out this carburetor air filter housing. We'll start with the 2 bottom ones. That's a 9/32. I'm sure there's a metric size for it, but 9/32 seems to fit. And these 2 side bolts are actually 5/16. And here is our carburetor now exposed. I'm going to remove this clamp here, get this fuel line clamped off. Now we can clamp this fuel line. We got the fuel line clamped. This gas tank should lift straight up. If I can do this with one hand, I can get this out of the way. There we go. And now the fuel tank is removed as well. I'm going to disconnect this fuel line. And this carburetor will pull straight off. There's no bolts holding it. This is the air filter housing connection. This is a carburetor spring here for the choke, and this is a heat sensor here to determine when it can release the choke after the engine is run. And here's our throttle. So this carburetor should pull straight off now since the air filter housing has been disconnected. There's the O-ring in the back. Now we can disconnect the linkage. Got one. Let's see if we can get the next one here. There we go. Here's our carburetor. Now let's clean this off a bit, see if we can figure out what is plugging this up. And we got a clean place to work now. We got our carburetor cleaned on the outside. We've got 2 bolts here in the bottom to take off, and they're 9/32. I'm sure there's a metric size. Let's take this off and see what we can find in here, what mysteries are clogging this up. And you have to be careful kind of slowly prying this apart. Here we go. And I see trash pouring out of this already. And that's the inside of our carburetor. Let's dump the gas out of this and see what kind of trash is coming out. So I dumped what was in the bowl, and I see a little bit of water and a little bit of trash in here. Now let's take the float pan out and the needle and clean everything out inside this carburetor. And the float pin you just kind of carefully lift out. And there's our needle that just fell off. We'll get all that and get it all cleaned up. So we're ready to reassemble this carburetor. And I found more trash as I blew this out with carburetor cleaner inside here. This seemed to be partially plugged up where the needle goes in. So I blew through here and it can blow air in here really great now. Got the float cleaned, the needle cleaned. Now we're ready to do a reassembly of this. And we'll first start by getting the needle and the float pin back in. Just a matter of getting it positioned and get the pin locked back in place. That's one side. And there's the other. Now we're ready to put the float bowl back on. And I can raise the float and blow through here and air goes in. Close it and air will not go in, so that should tell me that the gas should get into the carburetor. Now let's put the float bowl back on. And the carburetor is now reassembled. I turned this upside down and blew in here and could not blow any air, which tells me the float is closing. And I can blow air standing it up this direction, so the float should be working. And we'll do the reverse installation here. I did check the gas in the gas tank, and that actually looks really good. But I'm going to go ahead and drain all the gas out of this and start with fresh gas. So let's get this reassembled. And the carburetor is now back on. Very simple to do with those two linkage back in place and the spring stayed in place. Now we'll get the gas tank back on and get the air filter housing back on. And the gas tank and fuel line is now back in place. We'll put some fresh gas in this. Now we'll put on the air filter housing. And the air filter and air filter housings back on. Let's put the recoil on and see if we can give this a start. And the Troy Bilt is fully assembled now. Got the recoil back on. And been checking to make sure we're not leaking any gas. After adding gas back in here, everything looks good. Let's see if this fixes the problem. And give this Troy Bilt a start here. Here we go. But it's running. We'll let it run a while and see if it smooths out. I'm going to zip this bolt off here. There we go. I didn't get any details on this mower whatsoever. I think I'm going to go ahead and replace that. It looks a little bit off. Turn this away from the magnet, and you also want to tie down the handle as well to remove the brake on here. And let's just give this a little tap. I think it's already loose, but just need to put the bolt back on. A little jolt, and it's loose. looks like we're going to go ahead and replace it anyway, since we got this far. Now give me a minute here to get this off. And there's the flywheel key. It's a little bit damaged, so we'll go ahead and put a new one in here. And this is from my package of what I call a lifetime supply of flywheel keys. Thank goodness they haven't changed them with these new engines. Let's put one of these new ones on. And just kind of comparing the new with the old. This is the old one. It's got a slight nick on the end. I'm not sure if that would make any difference at all. Whereas the new one, it's all perfectly shaped if that comes out. It's just a matter of sliding it in the slot here. Flywheel back on. And there we go. Now we'll bolt this back up. And now we can tighten the bolt. And put the cover back on. And here's the TB200 now. I cleaned this all up. Looks really nice. It just is not running correctly. Even after cleaning the carburetor. Replacing the spark plug, and even replaced the flywheel key. Kind of at a loss here what else could be done, but it just runs really rough. I'll start this up and show you what it's doing. Any ideas of what I can do with this, please let me know. These engines can be very temperamental. They either run or they don't run correctly. I bought one very similar, the Craftsman version of this, earlier this year. Had been in a storage room locker for well over a year. Started right up, no issues. But this one, not sure what could be wrong with it. Started up and let you see it's running a little bit rough. Looks really good. Starts right up now that I cleaned the carburetor. Got a lot of trash in it. Here we go. Back on the frame correctly as well, which was not put on correctly. Very nice looking mower. Definitely can hear that miss. Any suggestions, let me know. Very nice mower, just not quite running right.